Coming up on Tech News Today, HP gets a new CEO. I guess he gets the Hurd locker. I have to credit John Strickland for that. He thought it up in the chat room. Also, TVs are getting cheap this holiday season. You might want to keep an eye on the bargains. And we have the exclusive secret meeting of Zuckerburg. Find out what it is.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, September 30th, 2010. Tech News Today is brought to you by Mailroot.info. Mailroot is secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now, absolutely free at Mailroot.info. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Becky Worley.
I'm Dr. Kiki.
And I'm Jason Howell.
This is the show where we kick around the tech news of the day, try to make some sense out of it. And we have got some big wigs to watch today. They're moving. They're shaking. It's Bigwig Carousel. Let's start with the just announced new CEO of HP, taking the spot of Mark Hurd. I should say Herr Leo Apotheker.
Bigwig hair.
No, it's German. Not that kind of hair. So Leo Apotheker, formerly CEO of SAP. He is German. He's from Aachen, Germany, and he actually has been honored with the French Legion of Honor, amongst also running tech companies.
Yeah, and he's run a few tech companies, and other than that, he's kind of a no-name. Looks like HP's stock kind of tanked out after they hired this guy. Not really like citing the street, let's put it that way.
Well, he served as CEO of SAP. SAP is a big company. He worked there for more than 20 years, so it's not like he's got no experience whatsoever. He's got something going on.
Yeah, it's just the unknown quality, the question of what he's going to bring, and I think that whenever there is change, there's unless there's a real reason to go yes and get behind it, the investors are going to get a little scared.
Ray Lane, a managing partner at Kleiner Perkins Caulfield and Byers, is a new member of the board. Probably not that exciting to everybody, but so there you go. We also have some changes going over at Yahoo. Well, all things, he's calling it a meltdown. Several different VPs have left, as well as the top exec for the United States, Hillary Schneider.
Yeah, Yahoo having a big turnover here. Not only Hillary Schneider, but also she's as you mentioned, the EVP for the Americas. Then we've got Jimmy Pitaro. He's VP of Media, and his boss, David Coe, who was in charge of audience and mobile and local, all in North America. And I called Yahoo and said, guys, what's going on over there? Full disclosure, I sometimes work for Yahoo. And they said, we're not going to really be speculating on that much. Now, keep in mind, Carol Bartz has 18 months left on her contract, and the news on the street is that she may be getting a number 2, someone who's really strong in case the board doesn't want to keep Carol Bartz on. She's a firecracker. People love her or hate her, and when a company's doing well, someone who's a huge personality like that is not a liability. But when they're not, she says a lot of things that inflame a lot of people. And
paid content saying that the investors aren't worried yet. The stock price has been doing okay. Hillary Schneider it's been known that she was going to leave. Carol Bartz apparently talked her out of leaving. So this shakeup isn't as worrying to investors as apparently it is to the actual employees of Yahoo, who feel pretty uncertain. And then to finish up our big wigorama, 3 Sprint directors have resigned from the Clearwire board. Clearwire runs the Clear WiMAX system. It's how Sprint gets its WiMAX. It's how Comcast and Time Warner get its WiMAX. It's a joint venture of multiple companies. And not only Sprint Chief Executive Dan Hess, but also fellow executives Keith Cohen and Stephen Elfman have resigned from the board. They say because of antitrust concerns, but a lot of people are speculating that maybe it's to give Clearwire a little more flexibility in pursuing new rounds of funding. Comcast said they're not giving them any more money. So there we go. That's our big wiggle-rama for the day. Let's move on to the Zeus Trojan. We mentioned yesterday in News Fuse that 19 folks in London had been rounded up because of using the Zeus Trojan to steal a bunch of money from people's bank accounts. The arrests, the charges, the accusations go on today. Between federal and state charges, more than 60 people total are being charged in an operation across several cities around the globe.
And this is really interesting, the fact that it is just so widespread. Additionally, the information that has been released so far on these 60-some-odd people, a lot of them are Eastern Europeans who have potentially have come into the United States to open bank accounts to be able to move money around more easily.
Yeah, they're being charged with fraud, money laundering, false foreign passports. They allegedly recruited mules. Now, we're not talking about unholy horse and donkey progeny, but people who
or women's shoes.
Yeah, we're talking like a drug mule type of thing, except not for drugs. They would place ads on Russian language websites looking for students with J1 visas who could legally open bank accounts in the United States. And then the mules were accused of retrieving money from the breached brokerage accounts. So the Zeus Trojan would go steal the money. The mules would get the money, put it into their accounts, and then that would allow them to money launder it by transferring it to other bank accounts, maybe in Asia, or just withdraw it from ATMs and turn it into cash.
Yeah,
and keep in mind, this Trojan's been around since 2006, and the estimates are that it's taken probably $200 million from people. And I think what's interesting here is that they finally, the criminals have figured out a system to make this into a working syndicate of crime.
Yeah. I just wonder, with the arrests, with the charges, it's 60 people, which is it's a significant number. But how if they're mostly going after people with the bank accounts that they could track, that means they're getting the mules. They're not necessarily getting people that are more deeply embedded in the syndicates. And so is this going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of?
That's a really good question. We don't know who all they've gathered. There's lots of different numbers of how many have actually been arrested and where. The police are busy doing this raid right now. They haven't had time to stop and tell everyone, well, here are the folks we got. So we don't know if all they got was mules. Did they get any of the kingpins? Did they get any of the operators of this? Because it makes a big difference, right?
Makes a huge difference.
Still a lot of people, though. A lot of mules.
A lot of mules.
It's like being in Oatman, Arizona right now at the FBI.
It's very sophisticated.
Oatman, Arizona is not. That's where Timothy McVeigh was hiding out before they arrested him. Some Android apps caught covertly sending GPS data to advertisers. This is a result of a study by researchers from Duke University, Penn State University, go Nittany Lions, and Intel Labs, revealing that a significant number of popular Android applications transmit private data to advertising networks without explicitly asking for the information. Now, this is the way Android works. It tells you up front, we're going to collect GPS data, but it doesn't tell you what it's doing for. So if you're downloading an application that, say, gives you local restaurant recommendations, and you say, well, yeah, I want it to use my GPS information because I want it to know where I am so it knows what restaurants to recommend. They could also be using that to send your GPS information to advertisers.
Yes. And that's the problem here, is there's no stipulation and exact notification of how that data is being used. And that's the real complaint from the folks who created this this software, is that this is really the Wild West out there. And I actually contacted Google, and they said, I'll give you their exact statement. They said, on all computing devices, desktop or mobile, users necessarily entrust some of their information to the developer. Android has taken... Yep, true, fair enough. Android has taken steps to inform users of this trust relationship.
Just described how that works.
And to limit the amount of trust a user must grant any given application developer.
Yeah,
now, they also say they provide developers with best practices on how to handle user data, and that's where I think the problem lies. They advise them on best practices. Now, they also said that, keep in mind, they didn't test all of the apps. They just tested 30 apps. And Google also said that, and they're really defending their position here and the concept of an open market. They said, hey, you know what? They didn't test any of the other operating system apps. So I think it's a very defensive statement about the concept of an open app market.
Yeah, it's a little bit, what about other people? Well, it's not just us. They're doing it too. I agree with Ars Technica. They said Google should enhance the Android market so that the application developers can make their privacy policies directly accessible to users prior to installing. I think that would go a long way to say, okay, when they tell me I'm going to be using GPS data, I can click on a privacy policy if I want and find out exactly what they say they're going to be using it for. Doesn't mean they aren't lying, but that's a bigger deal if you've put out a privacy policy and violate it than if they say, hey, our policy always was to send it to advertisers. You just didn't know.
Because we didn't make it easily available for you.
And some people just aren't going to care. Exactly. Like some people don't care about the whole privacy aspect. And they're like, well, it's just a cool app. I don't care, you know, if it says GPS, what that actually means. Right. But to give them the option to go deeper, that's great.
If you want to find out what information your apps are giving out, you can use the same app that these people who did the study used called Taint Droid, T-A-I-N-T Droid, and you can install that on Android and actually use that to uncover the same information they did. So it's not like you're without any kind of defense or any kind of resource.
Another point positive in the open market, you know, open Android market's favor.
Yeah.
That even though there are these necessary possible privacy infractions, you also have people developing apps to help you be able to figure out when your privacy is being infracted.
Don't infract my privacy, for goodness sakes. All right, we got an Apple TV here. Gary was nice enough to run this up to the cottage today. He got an early shipment of it. Some people have started getting them as early as the last couple of days. So check out iPad today. They used it to show off the new remote app. And you can see it's hockey puck. That's a large-ish hockey puck.
I want to hit it with something.
It's like hockey puck's like that, and that's close. Anyway, it's been torn apart by iFixit. Now, I don't want to do that to Gary and tear it apart right now, but essentially they found a few really interesting things in here. Apple A4 chip coupled with 256-megabyte processor. Looks like there's room to stick another processor in there. Well, that's interesting. Also has 8 gigabytes of flash memory on it, which it doesn't actually store your movies, right? It only streams them. So it only needs enough to cache, which 8 gigabytes, that's plenty. You're not going to run out of cache with that. So I don't know if they're just planning for long-term, larger files, bigger, 3D, whatever, by making it so large, or if there's some other update coming down the road that would allow you to do applications. That's what everybody hopes. Also, a couple of soldering points in there iFixit found look like they would be perfect for putting in a dock connector so that you could actually plug in your iPhone or your iPad or something with the Apple dock connector. So anyway, if you want to know more about what's inside the Apple TV, check it out at iFixit. Meanwhile, whether you buy one of these or not, you might want to take a look at shopping for televisions, right, Becky?
Oh, this is going to be the holiday season for TVs. There have been reports, some of the Black Friday sites have made their prognostications about what the prices are going to look like, and they are impressive. So let me tell you what the ranges are going to be post Black Friday. So promotionally priced 32-inch LCDs, $200 and less. 720p plasmas, 42-inch, 50-inchers, $400 to $500.
Now that I gotta say that actually got me excited. 32-inch for $200. That's getting cheaper and cheaper. Right? Whatever. We've heard some 50-inch for $999, but 42-inch 720p. I know it's only 720p, but that's good enough for a lot of people. $400. That's a steal.
Well, look, this is the one that got me. 40 and 42-inch LCDs could be below $500, even for 1080p models.
Now we're talking. 1080p CCFLs.
Yeah. And, I mean, the reason why this has a lot of credibility in terms of how I'm thinking about this is that there are real market forces that they're attributing to these changes. And they're saying that basically a shortage of all of the bulbs that are lighting the backlit LEDs, those caused prices to go up in the beginning of the year. Then, with obviously the economy not rebounding quite as fast as people had hoped, that has now created a real glut of these backlit LEDs, and we think that that's where there might be some really sweet deals. They also say 3D TVs could have a lot of price drops around the holidays. I'm still not bullish on them because I'm waiting for that technology to evolve, but dang, some of these 42 inchers, that's a sweet deal.
Yeah, I read that think it was Samsung. There was one company that's not going to be able to release their 3D TVs until after the holidays. So the 3D stuff is still going to be quite a ways off.
U.S. Patent and Trade Office is evaluating the Bilski decision to try to figure out how they should grant patents under its guidance. Bilski didn't invalidate software patents, but it kind of softened them up. Red Hat has filed a response to say that you should just get rid of software patents altogether.
Just don't have them anymore.
So
why do you need them?
There's a little bit of pressure. There's a lot of people who really legitimately think that's the way it should go. On the other side of things, Microsoft is getting a little help in their case against i4i. i4i sued them over an XML patent that they say Microsoft violated in an implementation of Microsoft Word. Microsoft has appealed the case to the Supreme Court, and today, today being Thursday, Google, Apple, Intel, Yahoo, Dell, Hewlett-Packard, Facebook, Walmart, and Toyota, among others, filed a friend of the court brief saying that they think that the infringement standard should be changed. Right now, if you want to invalidate a patent, you have to provide clear and convincing evidence that it's wrong. They say that standard should be lowered to just a preponderance of the evidence.
Yeah, so yeah, good enough. It's good enough for you. You know, this would make it really a lot easier for these companies who are constantly barraged by lawsuits, a lot of times frivolous lawsuits that they spend a lot of money on, you know, to defend themselves. Make it a lot easier. A lot of times lawsuits would just be, wouldn't go to court because they would be deemed, you know, not worthy beforehand. But in terms of the little guy versus the big guy, sometimes if it's the little guy who's holding the patent, and it does this kind of a change would make it a lot harder for those holders of legitimate patents to actually defend those patents, or to actually enforce, not defend, but enforce those patents.
And then on the flip side, I mean, because really, Kiki, what you know, the little guy, that's becoming less and less the reality. Yeah. I think what the more common situation is patent trolls out there just thinking, this is my lottery ticket. And who better than Microsoft in this case? They should take this. And I mean, not that that's not my advocacy, but in terms of in their best interest as a corporation, what do they have to lose? Pay $290 million or take it all the way to the end and see if they can create some new precedent to really ward off patent trolls.
Yeah. Since this Saturday, the anonymous group that organizes themselves on 4chan has been operating distributed denial of service attacks against anti-piracy websites. They have now targeted Dunlap, Grubb, and Weaver. That's the one of the agencies that has been helping independent filmmakers send out anti-piracy notices and takedown notices. They've gone after U.S. Copyright Group. We've talked about them a lot as a place that tries to sue people for sharing films online. And the organizers of Operation Payback, as it's being called, say they're not going to stop until they stop being angry. In fact, there have been a couple of interviews out there that show that they think piracy is right. They think this is just the way the world is now.
Yeah,
they talked. So go ahead, Kiki. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say just the idea that information is free, whether or not it is copyrighted information. Like in here, Get Him to the Greek is the top movie downloaded on the Pirate Bay, which, you know, that's a movie. It's not necessarily educational, informational content, but to say that, you know, all information should be free to everybody and that the poorest people should be able to access this information freely, that's where they're coming from. And until that happens, they're going to stay angry.
They did an interview with the folks at Panda Labs, and I just want to read you some of this because it's kind of awesome. It's classic when you take it in the context of these guys who are performing these DDoSs. So Panda Labs says, "Are you prepared to go to jail for your cause?" Answer: yes, but we've taken every measure we can to make sure our anonymity remains intact. More importantly, why isn't this question of jail being asked to the very people who hired Aplex? That's the Indian firm that was basically attacking the pirates and the pirate servers to attack us in the first place. So basically, why aren't those guys going to jail? Then, if you were able to resolve this situation, what would you want the respective media authorities of the world to do? Personally, I would want them to go the bleep away altogether. Remove the barbaric laws. And then they actually go on to make some really interesting comments. Their long outdated traditional views on copyright infringement enforced solely by rich and powerful corporations need to be modified in light of the modern age on the internet and the information age. So it's a combination of like really strong emotional words and really well thought out ideas about digital issues.
In other words, it's a committed activist. I mean, there's no difference between this group and any other activist group that has really felt a strong movement towards changing the current order. And that goes for the French Revolution, the American Revolution, the Gray Panthers, the Black Panthers,
I think that
the Weathermen.
This group in particular, though, with their technical abilities, is probably going to be incredibly able to gum up the works, cause trouble for the anti-piracy organizations.
It's the civil disobedience of our age, right?
Yeah. It's a way to stir up the unrest.
I think it's worth having a conversation. We don't have time to have it now, but I think it's worth having the conversation. What would happen if we got rid of all copyright law? What would the fallout be? Because everyone just starts on the other end and says, "Oh, well, if we got rid of copyright law, it'd be horrible. No one would make any art anymore." We jump to all these conclusions and then say, "So here's where we have to extend copyright law." But
there was art long before there was copyright.
I'm not saying that we should get rid of all copyright law, but there was
people
art
were drawing
that.
Things on cave walls.
So I think this maybe one of the best things that will come out of this activism will be to force the debate from being such an extreme end of how long should we extend it to maybe getting us back to like what is actually reasonable.
Yep.
What did actually the people who framed the Constitution in the U.S. intend when they enacted copyright law? Because if you read some Ben Franklin, it wasn't to give you an inheritance. It wasn't to provide you a lifelong income. That was what they were rebelling against.
Right.
It was actually to just do just enough to keep people protected while they innovated, and then allow ideas to compete freely in the marketplace after that. Anyway, like I said, we could go on forever. We should thank our sponsor. We got a new sponsor today. You may have heard this on a couple other Leo shows on TWiT. Tech News Today brought to you by mailroute.info. Longtime friend of Leo's, Tom Johnson, runs the company. If you know about Microsoft's hosted exchange services FrontBridge, which you may or may not, but he wrote that. He invented it. And he moved on and decided, you know what? I want to solve the spam problem. So he has developed MailRoute, which is for companies or anybody who hosts their own mail servers like I do. I do it for subbrilliant.com. Leo has used it for 6 years, and he says it has changed how he is able to use his mail. I've always been amazed at how I'm able to just send Leo mail at the same address since I've begun knowing him.
Yeah.
And he actually can read it. He doesn't always respond. I don't always respond to my email either, but he gets it. He always gets it. And I'm like, yeah, he must have so much spam. I don't have any addresses that I can still use. That's because he's been using MailRoute. If you would like to sign up for MailRoute, you can get 10% off the life of it by going to mailroute.info. Now, here's a few things. It's not just for somebody who uses Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail or something. If you use that, that's fine. They've got built-in spam control. But if you run your own server, you run a small business, or you just provide email to your friends and family, let's put it this way. If you know how to change your own MX record on the domain name, then you're the right person for this. The mail goes to the MX record. The MX record sends it to MailRoute. MailRoute gets rid of all the spam, sends the good stuff back to your server. Over the last 12 months, Leo was sent 3.7 million messages. 3.6 million of them were blocked. 96% of the mail he got was spam. It was blocked by MailRoute. They do no false positive. They've got 3 nines uptime, 99.999%. So you can sign up on the website. I did it yesterday. You don't have to sign up for a long-term contract. It's month to month, $2 per user per month. Or you can add some outbound services for 50 cents per user per month. If you're a small business, run your own mail server, it's going to really help manage that. The subbrilliant.com email addresses that I've used, you can email me, tom@subbrilliant.com. I have not touched them in years because they are too spam-ridden. So I'm very excited to sign up for this and see how it goes and get rid of some of that spam. I've even got an account that uses Google Apps for the domain. They work with that as well. So try it out if you'd like, mailroute.info. Let's move on to the News Fuse.
Citing a lack of support from Republicans, Representative Harry Waxman has announced he will not push forward with his net neutrality bill before the election in November. The details of his proposal were released, and unlike the rumors, did include regulation for wireless internet. So there.
We've known this since I worked on the screensavers in 1999. The number of internet addresses available is going to run out. But they think it's actually going to run out by the end of this year. That's the new part. Nice. And the transition to a new scheme that would provide plenty of new addresses looks to be messy. IPv4 is what we've been using. It's been running low for years, but technology like routers and DHCP and all that stuff has helped bridge the gap. ISPs and other network operators have begun the transition to IPv6. They hope that it would just kind of happen in the background. But Ars Technica has an article today saying support for legacy machines could make the switch a lot harder and a lot less seamless than people hoped.
A startup called Social Intelligence is mining social media to create a profile of job applicants based on their potential for violence, drug abuse, or just plain bad judgment. Ouch. The reports feature a visual snapshot of what kind of person you are, evaluating your public posts on sites like Facebook and Twitter in categories like poor judgment, gangs, drugs and drug lingo, and demonstrating potentially violent behavior.
5-0 creeping.
That's right. The startup can also monitor current employees. Leo?
Yikes.
He did not do this background check on us, I'll guarantee it.
I know.
A study out of Rice University claims 42% of businesses that ran promotions on the discount site Groupon said, no, I don't think so. We're not going to do that again. 66% of the businesses studied were profitable, but many said the new customers were not prone to become repeat customers. And they also defined the Groupon customers as really bad tippers. So, all right, you Groupon groupies, next time at least put down 15%.
Yeah, come on, stingies. I go 20. As part of Google's initiative to make the web faster, Google announced the new WebP graphics format today, along with its research that indicates that WebP could cut image file sizes by 40% compared to today's dominant JPEG file format. That translates to faster file transfers, lower network burdens if Google can convince people to use an image format called WebP. Really? That's your name, Google? Okay.
All right. The U.S. Cyber Command will not be fully operational by Friday's October 1st deadline. A major challenge appears to be staffing the command with qualified personnel, of which it will need over 1,000 skilled employees. General Alexander told Congress his leadership staff was in place, but acknowledged there were challenges in bringing in people to the rest of the organization.
A new survey from ChangeWave Research helps us look into a crystal ball and see the future of the Android versus iPhone war here in the U.S. So 38% of the people surveyed want their next phone to be an iPhone. Now, that's down 12 points from last year when 50% of people surveyed said they want their next phone to be an iPhone. Now, over on the Android side, 37% of respondents say they want an Android-based phone. That's up 7% from last year. Now, remember, that's here in the U.S. In China, it may be a different story. Reports that sales of the iPhone 4 hit 100,000 units in just 4 days, and that the Beijing Apple store had to be closed for a few hours after a scuffle amongst people trying to buy as many iPhone 4s as possible.
They'll get tired of it over there, too, I'm sure. Space lovers, listen up. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed the Senate version of the fiscal year 2011 NASA Authorization Act. It's not everything that space buffs want. Rather, it's a compromise between the proposed budget from the White House and earlier House bills. It cancels the Ares 1, boo, in favor, oh, that was a little editorializing on my part, in favor of commercially operated crew transportation to the International Space Station, puts in technology and innovation funds, and keeps a version of Orion, yay, and a new heavy lift space launch system to both be operational by 2016. The timing of the bill was crucial to keep key NASA personnel from getting laid off.
That's pretty good.
All right, let's move on to our last story, which is Iron Man 2 exoskeleton.
Yeah!
In not real life.
In not real life, no. But Raytheon has debuted its Exos 2 exoskeleton.
See, it's totally Iron Man.
It's totally Iron Man, except for the fact that it has to be plugged in all the time.
It's almost Iron Man.
It's almost Iron Man. It has the ability to grant the operator superhuman endurance while moving heavy
Just
weights.
like Iron Man.
Just like Iron Man. You can delicately load explosives places if you need heavy explosives.
The way
Put
Tony
them on a
Stark
shelf.
would.
Yeah. Or you can punch through wood if that's what you want to do.
This is pretty awesome. Forget the whole Iron Man thing. This is just cool.
It's just very cool. I mean, the exoskeleton suit idea, the fact that we could enhance human strength, enhance human abilities. People have been talking about this for years, and to be at a point where they're actually demonstrating a really nicely working model.
Yeah, this is not a mock-up. You've probably seen these before, and they've been prototypes or mock-ups. This works, right? People can use it.
Oh yeah, it works, and they're saying they're probably going to be on the market in about I think the tethered version 3 to 4 years, and then a completely untethered version probably 3 to 4 years after that.
On the market for industrial and military applications.
Yeah.
I doubt we're picking this up at Target.
Probably not at Target, but there is a huge market for exoskeleton applications in non-military uses. So all sorts of industrial applications, allowing people to be able to load things. Forget about having to pick up a 50-pound weight, on that job application. Now you've got an exoskeleton suit for those back problems.
I could have used that on Saturday when I was loading our new flooring into the apartment.
Exactly. One of the other neat things about this, they are looking at different models. So they were in the video that's on this Singularity Hub website where I saw the story. Raytheon is looking at different military models. So the full body model is just one. They all are looking also at their combat model, which will just be from the waist down, allowing an individual to have endurance in terms of running, but still be able to wear some kind of a backpack or whatever you needed to have all the stuff that you need.
Cool. All right, let's take a quick look at the calendar, Becky.
Yeah, well, we've got big news in smartphones. Nokia starts shipping their N8 smartphone today. They say they've got some in the mail to the early order folks, but they don't have an exact date when they'll get into stores. The T-Mobile G2. We've been reporting that this thing's coming out real soon. Well, it's going to be at Radio Shack first, starting October 3rd. It'll be $149 with a contract. Pretty good deal. Social Network, the movie, The Social Network, hitting theaters Friday, October 1st. Tom, you going to go see it?
I am definitely going to go see it. However, Jeff Jarvis calls it the anti-social network, so my expectations have been suitably lowered. But I gotta watch it. I got to take a look.
It's a business expense. Get out there. Microsoft releasing updated Windows Live apps today. Going back to the phones, we talked about Verizon, which had a Droid phone themed R2-D2. Yep. Well, it is coming out, and it will be available, and we've seen pictures of it. It's cool. I'm a Star Wars. That's about the only geek culture thing I really can claim, so I liked it. And goo.gl. GL. It's the URL shortener from Google.
Thank goodness we needed another URL shortener.
Bitly, TinyURL, nah, go to your Google. It's their claim is it's faster. What, are the other ones slow? What are you, nuts? It's officially open, and it's called Google. I don't know. I kind of like that.
It won't go out of business like some of the others have. I guess that's the big advantage.
That's the point.
On to the voicemail, 260-TNT show, or you can upload a video to a video sharing service and email us the link, like this gentleman did, telling us why he thinks there's an Android store coming from Amazon.
Hey, TNT crew. Tony from Wisconsin. A couple days ago, you were wondering why Amazon would want to use its own app store instead of just using the Android marketplace. Well, think of it this way. Instead of the free-for-all that the Android marketplace is, you could have different specialized smaller stores. Think of a family-friendly store for children's games and apps that's highly curated and controlled like the Apple App Store. Having more stores gives you more choice, and more choice is always a good thing. Keep up the good work.
Hey, thanks, Tony, and I appreciate the video voicemail. That is a common conception of why Amazon would do this, is to provide an alternative, because you can't do that with Android. You could have multiple marketplaces. Google doesn't have to allow them on the certified versions, but If you want to have the flexibility to just run Android open source and you don't care about getting the Google Marketplace, well, you just do the Amazon Marketplace. And that might take care of some of these privacy issues.
Sounds good.
Let's go on to our next caller with some thoughts on Facebook.
Hey guys, this is Julian in Seattle. First of all, love the show, and you guys have been talking about Mark Zuckerberg in the show and on TWiT quite a bit in the last few weeks, and that name's been trotting in my head, and it's only today that I actually realized that in German, Zuckerberg actually means mountain of sugar. So I thought I'd let you know. I think it's interesting. Maybe a premonition. What do you think? Love your show. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Sweet.
Sweet. So sweet.
Zuckerberg?
I am going to call him Mark Sugar Mountain from now on.
On every TNT. Mark Sugar Mountain is now the world's richest
Sugar
man.
Mountain Zuckerberg, and all the Germans will be like, redundant.
I think that our friends down under will also appreciate that his sister's name is Randy. Randy Sugar Mountain. That's
yes.
Even better.
Yes, they will.
And on that note, let's read some email, Tom.
Yes, let's do.
Do it.
Hey, TNT, I just finished listening to show 85, and I like Becky. Wait, no, sorry. And like Becky, I was surprised to hear that such a low percentage of people downloaded media through their phones and or game consoles. That was surprising. Then I realized that I hardly ever download through those devices. I stream. I watch a ton of streamed video through my Xbox and stream a lot of audio through my phone. Did the study take that into account? I don't recall streaming being mentioned, but I may have been wrong. This is English John from England in the UK. Thanks for the clarity.
Wow, that's a lot of English. You put a lot of English on your email. I don't know whether streaming counted in that survey. That's a good question. It should have. Because the point is whether people are consuming digital media, not whether they're particularly downloading it and keeping it or downloading it and watching it in a stream. You're downloading it either way. But yeah, well, maybe we'll poke back into that study and find out.
And that's a concept that's also really hard for your average consumer to differentiate between is streaming and downloading and actually having the content. That's something that, I mean, when you think about awareness of people as they do consume media, they most of the time don't know the difference between the two.
Francesco in Philly also wrote in and let us know that he got out of his early termination fee in canceling his Clear service because of the throttling. Apparently, they changed their terms of service to accommodate the fact that they have bandwidth limitations. Because they changed the terms of service, he was able to get out without an ETF, so he's scot-free. If you're on Clear and you've run into the bandwidth throttling problems, that's something you probably should know. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks Kiki, thanks Becky, thanks Jason for coming along. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. Email us TNT@twit.tv or give us a call 260-TNT show. We'll see you tomorrow.